Hey everybody, Josh here with Ruby the Rubicon. About a month ago I went up to a four-wheel drive recovery informational day at the Canobolas Four-Wheel Drive Club in Orange here in New South Wales. And at that day, one of the things that they do is they look at your vehicle and they show you where the best place to hitch up is if you need to get in trouble or you need to pull somebody else out. They look at your recovery gear. Turns out I need to change some of my recovery gear. And when they were looking at the recovery points on the Jeep, they commented on the fact that they're open hook recovery points. Now, the recovery guys up at Orange prefer closed recovery points, but they can work with open recovery points. But there's a problem. The Jeep has a ladder bar chassis, which means you shouldn't be side pulling on these anyway. Or pulling on just one of them because you can bend the chassis and then the truck won't drive straight. And, you know, in ideal situations, you don't yank on these so hard that you bend the chassis, but it's certainly possible. The problem with these is, if you're using these, you should have a bridle setup. But if you've got a bridle setup, the orientation that Jeep put these on from factory has the opening on the inside. Which means if you're pulling on these, you're actually pulling on the weakest corner of the hook. Now, I've never heard of these failing, but I don't want to be the guy that has them fail first. The second problem with these is, because they're open on the inside, if you break a strap or something isn't seated properly when you hook it up, you could potentially have the strap slip off the inside edge of the hook and, you know, make a mess of whoever's standing in the vicinity of the Jeep. Probably not going to kill someone, but the fact that these are open and you would be pulling on the weakest part and towards the opening, or sort of towards the opening, isn't really ideal. So I'm going to flip these around. Now, I haven't seen anybody who has flipped these around. I'm not aware of anybody else who's had these concerns. At least if they have, they haven't voiced them on YouTube. But I still want to do it anyway. Now, what it will mean is that I won't be able to side pull off these that way, or that way for the other one, if it ever needed to be side pulled. I'm not too worried about that. There's plenty of room underneath that we can get to the chassis, go in through a wheel well or something if we need to do a side pull on this. But if I want to be able to do recoveries of other people off these rear hooks, I want these flipped around. So that's what we're going to do today. We are trying to grow the channel. We're currently trying to target 100 subscribers. So if you would subscribe and like the video, that would be fantastic. Share it amongst your friends, and hopefully you enjoy this content. All right. Let's get stuck into it. If only I knew.
Alright, so we're just underneath. I've whizzed the two bolts, the nuts off on this side. Now we're looking at the wiring loom. So there's a couple of those little Christmas tree clips that need to come out. These came out fairly easily. And then we just need to unplug the wiring loom, which in typical Jeep fashion has a little locking tab on it. So you undo the locking tab, and then you push. This is a bit hard to do one-handed. Push and pull, and out comes the wiring loom. That's simple. All right, I'll do the other side. Now, I needed to get a few new tools for this job. One was a set of deep reach sockets. I got these from Bunnings. I think they were about 50 bucks. The second was a new set of Torx sockets. Now, they come in these blister packs, and anyone who's ever had to deal with these things knows that they're a pain in the ass. I, however, have these. And these are awesome. Now, none of this is paid. I spent all my own money on this. They're a pair of Crescent yep, scissors, and these things are great. These things will cut through thin aluminium. They're really strong. You get heaps of leverage on them. The only thing you've got to be careful is don't get the palm, you don't get that bit there that I'm pointing at with your thumb. Don't get that bit in there when you reef down on it, because you will pinch yourself. Ask me how I know that. Anyway, normally if you don't have the tow bar, you only need these. You don't need these as well. The reason I need these as well is because the bumper is actually bolted to the bar that runs underneath the tow bar bolts too. So we'll get these open, we'll get that off, and then we'll pull the bumper off and swap these tow points over. So these are the bolts I was talking about. This little tab here bolts onto this crossbar that the bar goes onto. So T50 in the impact, yes, I'm using a reducer, yes, I know that's bad, no, I don't care. And comes out nice and quick. So I got those bolts off, and the ones on the other side. Tried to pull the bar off, wouldn't come off. Rock Slider has 3 bolts in it, so I'll get those out, then hopefully the bar will come off. And they're not a 16. Now that we have the right socket, which is a 15, we can undo these. Okay, now the bolts are out, we can take the bar off. Now, to flip these over, I'm going to undo these 2 bolts here. And they look like a 19 or a 21. We'll grab some sockets and see what fits. So I did one, but little did I know I was about to hit a snag that would mean I had to undo everything. Right, that's one. Let's do the other. Again, not as tight as I'd expected them. And just while I'm here, again, we are trying to grow the channel. If you'd be willing to like, subscribe, I'd like to get to 100 viewers would be nice. Share it with your friends, we'd really appreciate it. It was about this point that I was doing the other side up that I realised that Jeep actually have an indexing mark. Now it's a little hard to see in this photo, but it's between the 2 bolt holes. Now that little indexing bump lines up with a cutout in the frame where these hooks bolt in. That mean they can actually only fit one way. Now this suggests that Jeep have put some thought and effort into the orientation that these need to go in, and the only way to reverse it is to grind the tab off. So I put everything back together, and this is where I ended up.
So what happened? These toe points have a little notch key in them, and if you flip them upside down, they don't go back in the hole. So the only way to flip these is to grind that notch key off. So I've put them back the way Jeep had. I'm not really happy with it, but it is what it is. I'm going to see if I can find somebody who manufactures closed toe points for these, because I'm not a huge fan of these hooks. I understand they're convenient. I would rather have a closed hook on this. Tell me what you think in the comments. Unfortunately, this video didn't quite go the way I wanted it to, but now you know. You can't flip the factory Jeep toe points without grinding them, and I wasn't willing to do that. Once again, this has been Josh with Ruby the Rubicon. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and we'll see you next time. Cheers.